The black man is a promiscuous, absent in the home, uninvolved, and unsupportive father. I know you heard it before, right? It's a narrative that is being repeated in America daily and too often even being internalized by the black community themselves. But this narrative is a lie. As a matter of fact, a manufactured lie designed to undermine the black family. Today, we're going to expose the origins of those lies, and we're going to examine the actual data, and we're going to reclaim the truth about black fatherhood. This episode is going to be for every son, every father, and anyone who has been told that the so-called absence of the black father is the root of the black community's problems. In today's episode, we're going to break down and dissect these false narratives. We'll move from history to myth to evidence. So don't go anywhere. We have another great episode of Notes to the Sun. Let's chop it up.
Notes to the Sun is only intended for a mature audience and contains strong language which may be considered offensive by some viewers.
Welcome back to Notes to the Sun, everyone. I'm your host, KGB, and today we are going to be going straight at one of the most persistent and damaging narratives in America, and that is the myth about the absent black father. You heard the talking points, right? Fatherlessness is the biggest problem in the black community. You read the media headlines. You've seen the stereotypes in the movies and on television. You heard the songs, right? Glamorizing our dysfunction. You probably even laughed at a couple of baby daddy jokes yourself. And why not? Didn't black people come up with the term baby daddy to describe the negligent behavior of their own men? Why should the world call us anything different than we call ourselves? And what about the statistics? Aren't there enough statistics to support the fact that black fathers are not pulling their weight? Statistics don't lie, do they? They may not. But historically speaking, data has been weaponized to draw some skewed conclusions about black people to support a narrative put forth by both racism and white supremacy. So, yes, there are several statistics that support the narrative of uninvolved and unsupportive black fathers. But when you look at the full picture, family structures, involvement, poverty, mass incarceration, and the educational system, this story changes a lot.
When and where the lies began.
The truths we will discuss today do not erase the multi-century impact of enslavement, rape, family separation, and state-sanctioned racism. Nor is it meant to let some black men off the hook for what is clearly reprehensible, negligent behavior. But to understand the modern-day image of the black father, we must examine where this narrative, this lie, was born. Did you know that despite deliberate attempts to separate and destroy black families, that up until the 1940s, blacks had marriage rates equal to that of whites? You see, against all odds, we still held our families together, but by the mid-20th century, something had happened. American marriage rates were shifting across all races. Black women, however, experienced a sharper decline than any other race, but this sparked fear-driven speculation that something was happening to the black family. Many felt it was collapsing.
Enter Moynihan.
In 1965, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, then the Assistant Secretary of Labor, wrote a federal report called The Negro Family, The Case for National Action. This well-intended report speculated that the current trend of unmarried black women having babies signaled the inevitable demise of the black family structure unless immediate measures were taken. He actually attributed most of the problems facing the black community to the absence of the black father. Moynihan stated at the heart of the deterioration of the fabric of Negro society is the deterioration of the Negro family. It is the fundamental source of the weakness of the Negro community at the present time. For Moynihan, black fathers were deserting their families due to their diminishing authority within our families. You see, he felt that poverty, lack of education, and lack of employment all contributed to the black man losing authority within his own household and feeling like less of a man. Moynihan, he actually supported the idea that being unable to bring home the bacon or a paycheck similar to our white counterparts, that the black father developed feelings of self-hatred and defeat. Now, unable to establish our authority within our own household or get respect from our wife and children, that we ultimately desert our families in order to regain a sense of manhood. Now, bitter and defeated, the black man takes out his frustrations and insecurities on his own community through crime and self-destructive exploits. Though well-intended, Moynihan's report created some very dangerous assumptions about the black family that persist today and have contributed to the idea of the baby daddy and the hit-and-run father. Moynihan summarized that unemployment, poverty, lack of education, and low wages diminish the black man's authority within his own family and community, that they ultimately take away his manhood. But what was even more dangerous is that he summarized that black female authority undermined the black man's ability to be a man in his own home. You see, Moynihan felt that black women welcomed matriarchy, that her role as an authority figure within the black family unit is a familiar role and a preferred role, that it is a position that she once held in slavery when black husbands had no power or authority over their own families. And then lastly, he concluded that the lack of authority that black men held within their own family causes them to internalize feelings of self-hatred and then react with aggression towards their family, their community, and society in general. Ultimately, to escape these feelings of inadequacy, that is the reason why black men desert our families.
Problematic conclusions.
So what were the issues with Moynihan's conclusion and what was so wrong with it? Well, A, he treated the effects of racism as coincidences and not intentional outcomes. He framed poverty and unemployment as consequences of black behavior, not as deliberate tools of a racist system designed to deny economic access to blacks. B, his logic predicted that as black people gained education and income, fatherlessness would decrease. But it didn't, because the premise itself is flawed. C, his findings helped create new, even more damaging stereotypes of black families. After Moynihan's report, liberal and conservative reactions increased scrutiny of black families. Liberals wanted to help supplement the income of single mothers through programs and fundings who were disproportionately poor, while conservatives believed that this would only reward their behavior and lead to more female-headed families. In the meantime, taxpayers wanted to know why the hell their hard-earned dollars were being used to support a bunch of unmarried women who made bad choices. Choices to be with inadequate, irresponsible, and uneducated men. Eventually, the welfare queen stereotype was created, a black woman who favors government aid over the presence of her children's father. Remember in 1965 when Moynihan sounded an alarm and issued out a call to action when black marriage rates were at a whopping 61%? Well, today, white marriage rates are at around 55%, but where are the alarm bells? Where's the national call to action and the theories about white men and their self-hatred and their social inadequacies?
All the lies we were told.
Many stereotypes about black fathers today trace directly to Moynihan's claims. Worse, many of these narratives have been internalized and repeated by black people themselves. Let's dismantle some of these common myths. We've all heard and read the statistic, right? 70% of black households are single-parent homes. This is probably the most misused and misrepresented statistic about black families. So what is the truth? The truth is that when they say single parent home, single refers to the marital status, not whether or not the father is present. Single doesn't mean solo. So an unmarried mother living with the unmarried father of her children is counted as a single parent home because they're single. Cohabitating couples are also counted as single parent homes. And if the mother is not married, it doesn't matter that grandma and grandpa are there. Multi-generational households are counted as single. This intentional misrepresentation of the facts lends to the belief that Black fathers are absent and adds credence to the baby daddy narrative. So, what are the facts? According to the Pew Research, 39% of Black households are headed by actual married parents. Only 25% are headed by females, and 6% are actually headed by males only. The rest of them live with non relatives or in, again, those multi generational situations. So there is actually no credible research that suggests that the majority of Black households are headed by women alone. The narrative suggests fatherlessness, the data does not. So please stop the lie. The most damaging stereotype that came out of Moynihan's report was related to the Black woman. You see, the report itself left a legacy where it created the Black woman as someone who desires to be unmarried. Moynihan himself stated that in a matriarchal structure, the Black woman exercises authority. And this is a familiar position for her because her elevated status over the Black man during slavery. So being single is a preferred marital status for the Black woman. The other problem that Moynihan's report had was that subsequently, liberals started to seek funding for single Black mothers and create programs in order to address the problems outlined in his report. Well, what ended up happening is many states adopted a man in the house law. And this law essentially said that if a man lived in the home of a single unmarried woman, it doesn't even matter if he's the biological father, she cannot receive state funding. So what it created was an actual financial advantage for you if you did not have a man living with you. People believe that with this financial advantage, as well as a preference for authority, that Black women ultimately did not wish to be married. The problem with that is the facts state differently. The facts are Black women actually do want to be married. In her research on the decline of marriage amongst African Americans, Dr. Belinda Tucker and other sociologists, they actually showed that Black women value long-term commitment and marriage as much as, and sometimes even more than white women. Black women are not avoiding marriage. They're navigating historical and systematic realities that others have never had to. One of the most damning stereotypes that has come out of this idea or this notion that Black women prefer to be unmarried because there's more social and financial advantages to do so is related to the area of child support. I've heard this shit echoed so many times within the Black community and actually within my own peer group. This idea that Black women would like to be unmarried because they actually get financial gain through the institution of child support, and that they're actually weaponizing child support in order to keep Black children away from their fathers. I've heard this ridiculous shit more times than I count. And once again, there's absolutely no credible research to suggest this. As a matter of fact, in 2024, a study conducted by the Annie E. Casey Foundation found that white women who had custody of their children had nearly twice as many child support orders than Black women that had custody of their children. So, in other words, Black mothers went to court seeking child support half as much as white women. Also, Black mothers stated that they had more verbal child support agreements with the father of their children than any other race. Secondly, when Black mothers were asked why they did not seek a child support order, 25% more than any other race said because the father was doing the best that he could. Now, contrast that with 21% of white women, 18% of Asian, and 11% of Hispanic women that had custody of their children. And lastly, custodial Black mothers stated that they preferred to stay in contact with the father of their children after they separated. They stated that more than any other race. So not only do Black women take into consideration the Black father's personal and financial situation before securing a child support order, the Black woman also prefers to stay in contact with him after separation more than any other race so that their children not only get financial support, but they also get mental and emotional support. She ain't nothing but a gold digger, and she ain't fucking with no broke niggas. We've all heard the song, right? The most laughable lie of them all is that Black women are insensitive to the plight of Black fathers and are seeking financial gain more than they're actually seeking a father for their children. The reason why this is laughable is because if Black women only wanted to be with a wealthy, highly educated, and employed man, they would just simply seek out white men. Why fuck with Black men? I mean, if you are a gold digger, wouldn't you go where the gold is? The reality is that Black men are twice as likely as Black women to have a spouse of a different race or ethnicity. She doesn't want your gold, brother. She just wants you. Smarten up, stupid. So Black men don't want to be fathers because the pressures of racism, poverty, unemployment, and lack of education is too much for us, that our fragile manhood just can't take it. So we'd rather desert our families than actually be fathers and stay with them. Lie number 3. Black men don't want to be fathers. A survey done on 1,300 Black men between the ages of 18 and 29 actually showed that 83% of Black fathers said having children is important to them. As a matter of fact, across all races, Black men, we actually become fathers at a rate similar, if not higher, than other races. So Black men, we want to be fathers. We actually take pride in it. Black men desert their families because the pressures of poverty, lack of education, and unemployment are so great that we just can't handle it. Lie number 4, Black men aren't involved with their children. In a 2017 study on how the news media distorts Black families, researchers found that news commentators identified Black fathers 60% of the time that they specifically mentioned absent father. Also, a study found that media outlets portray Black fathers as having half the involvement with their children as Black mothers, and even white fathers. Research from CDC data actually tells a different story. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Black fathers who live with their children are actually more likely than white or Hispanic fathers to bathe, dress, and read to their kids daily. They're also more involved in meals, activities, and homework. Even non-residential Black fathers, those who don't live with their kids, remain more involved on average than their white or Hispanic counterparts. In a 2000 paper on race differences in non-resident fathers, researchers actually found that Black non-resident fathers saw their children more days per month, spent time with the child more frequently, engaged in more father-child activities, showed higher shared responsibility, and demonstrated better co-parenting with mothers than their white and Hispanic counterparts. And lastly, lie number 5, that poverty, lack of education, and unemployment causes Black fatherlessness. Well, if these factors actually cause Black men to desert their families, then we should see fatherlessness decline as Black wealth, Black education, and Black employment rise. But over the years, Black unemployment has dropped. Black poverty has dropped. Black educational attainment has actually increased dramatically, and yet marriage rates amongst Blacks continues to decrease. Why? Because Black families, we have a unique historical relationship with marriage. We married when they told us we legally could not. So we form bonds through commitment, community, shared parenting, and culture, not just legal paperwork. For Black couples, children often signify a commitment more than a marriage license does. Now that we know the truth about Black fatherhood and Black fatherlessness, what are we going to do with that truth, right? What is the whole point of this entire podcast? Well, the point is critical. And that is Black men and Black women are not responsible for creating the conditions that destabilize the Black family, nor are we responsible for the myths and stereotypes that followed. Racism did that. Slavery did that. Segregation did that. And the discriminatory policies that shape our present conditions. All of those things are in fact responsible. But we, and this is important, We are responsible for our response to those things. We can acknowledge systemic forces and still demand accountability from ourselves. We can honor our history and still correct our future. Because I firmly believe that the fight for the Black family begins with destroying the myths that others have created about us, but more importantly, destroying the ones that we've come to believe about ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Notes to the Sun. I'm your host, KGB. Until next week, much love. Peace.
Thank you for supporting Notes to the Sun. Please be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Our show is a production of Sunshine Media LLC with all rights reserved. The podcast and its contents are protected under U.S. and international copyright law.